Welcome to the Boss It Weekly podcast, a no-nonsense, no-hype, frank and close-up analysis of what is currently working and what is not in the world of software. The Boss It podcast is packed with major takeaways for software business owners and managers. So, let's begin.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Boss It. And today I'm going to be talking to Shane Barker, who is a digital strategist. I've been reading a number of his articles and there was quite a lot that grabbed my attention, particularly around content marketing. And that's a conversation that continually crops up, is how do you manage, if you buy into this idea about content marketing, and I think a lot of people have, is how do you manage that and how do you really make that useful and work for your organization? So I'd like to introduce Shane Barker. Welcome along to Boss It, Shane.
Hey, Mark, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about being on the podcast today.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you speaking from? Where are you based, first of all?
Yeah, I'm based out of Sacramento, California. So I've lived in Sacramento pretty much my whole life, and it's been a great little hub city. I also teach at UCLA. I teach a personal branding and how to be an influencer course in LA. So I fly down there once a week for a 3-hour course to help educate the youth of America.
Excellent. And you do quite a lot of keynote speaking, plus you work as a digital strategist. So it sounds like you've got quite a variety of work that you get your hands on, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been almost 25 years. I was in denial of how long it was been for a long time until I was on a podcast and my wife was walking by my office and she goes, "You just told me you've been doing this for like 12 years. And I'm like, yeah, it's 12 years. And she goes, "It's been 20 plus years." And I'm like, so I'm not really good with numbers, right? So I wouldn't be a great accountant for you, but any kind of digital strategy stuff. I've been in the digital space, like I said, 25 years. It has been an interesting journey because, the space is constantly changing. I've done SEO. I really started off because I was really marketing and doing my own businesses and I was bootstrapping. So I would hire individuals and that's how I really learned most of the stuff that I know. I went to college and graduated and got my marketing degree and I probably use, maybe 1% of what I learned there, right? I hope my son's not listening to this because, of course, I pushed him to college and told him, it's the only way to go. And now I'm saying that I only learned, it's only applicable 1% of what I've learned. But
yeah.
Most of my stuff has just been through growing my own businesses. And that's kind of jumped me into the consulting side of things. And then consulting jumped me into teaching. And then it jumped me into doing keynote speaking actually all over the world at this point.
Excellent. I mean, one of the issues I think in the area of marketing, and I know that you can cover and we can talk about a number of different topics, is that marketing has changed so rapidly. Look back 5 and 10 years, how marketing was then is very different to what's working today, although you still probably see a lot of companies that are still using strategies might have worked then, but not work so well now.
Yeah.
Is that one of the main issues that you see with the organizations that you're introduced to, that you start working with?
Yeah, it is. And because the thing is that's what I enjoy about the digital space is that constantly changing. The problem is that it's constantly changing. I'm on the cusp of that because I have, networks and people that I talk with and, we have these mastermind groups. And so I get to see these awesome things that are happening. And for me, I learn them, I evolve, and that's my business. If you're a restaurant or if you're a software company or something like that, it's very difficult because you're used to, a way that you've done business. And now people go, "Hey, that was awesome last year, but this year that no longer works." And you go, "Okay, that's scary." Like, so how do I adapt myself, right? Because I'm the president, the secretary, the treasurer, I'm everything, right? Now I've got to be this marketer and I've got to learn these new tactics and these way of doing business. And so, it is a challenge. And I mean, it can be a challenge for a business. It's like, there's a lot of different things that you can do. And if I have a set budget, like where do I put that money, right? Is it into SEO? Is it into PPC? Is it into content marketing? And it really comes down to, there's a number of questions that we ask, but it really comes down to what are your goals, right? If you're looking for some type of results overnight and you say, "Hey, I need this thing to be up in 5 days and I really want to be generating hopefully some revenue in 1 month," that would be more of a PPC type play. You're looking at something of like, "Hey, I want to go long term. I want to go after some of these keywords and I want to knock some of my competition out of the way. And I want to really start generating revenue from once I become number one for those keywords. That's something that's going to continuously to produce fruit for you over a long period of time. And how do I go about doing that?" That's obviously a longer term play. So there's usually the questions if you're working with the right type of agency or digital strategist, they should be asking some more probing questions to find out what your goals are, because you want to make sure that you match up, right? A lot of companies will come to me and say, "Hey, Shane, I really need to do SEO, and that's the big thing. I got to be number one for this keyword." And then I pull this thing and we ask some questions and we go down this road. And then I find out that really SEO is not the best play for them because they have a limited budget and they're looking
Yes.
for results here in 2 weeks. All right. So it really comes down to, if you're whoever you're working with, make sure they're asking the right questions and make sure they're really probing you to find out exactly what your goals are.
When do you think that content marketing is most appropriate? Because I know that I've spoken to quite a number of organizations that have dabbled, and I say that they've dabbled. They've tried it. They maybe that they've used their existing agency that they may have been working with some time. I suspect that some of them have probably got slightly different skill set, and they're just embracing content marketing themselves, I think, sometimes. But do you think that the size of the organization can be a factor in deciding whether that content marketing play, or is this something that you think all organizations should be starting to utilize, but to a varying degree?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to your budget and your goals, right? So the thing is if you have a very limited budget and you need to make money right away, then you need to figure out what that's going to happen, how that's going to come about, right? So content marketing, to me, it's not for every company, but I do think it's something that every company needs to take a look at, because if you have a good budget, you can put, budget into different things. And so you say, hey, this needs to produce revenue, soon. This is a little bit of a longer term play. We're willing to invest in that. And what are we looking at in regards to timelines and stuff like that? So myself as a company would say, okay, you're XYZ company. Who are your 3 competitors? Go look at their content. Go look at their SEO. Go look at how much traffic they're driving. Look at we have to kind of break this thing, go backwards. So we go in and say, hey, for, you guys are getting 1,000 people to your website a month. How many of those people are you closing? Great. We're closing, we have 20% of those people will inquire with us and we're closing 3%. And what's the lifetime value of those clients? Hey, it's $10,000. Great. So you're closing $30,000 a month off of 1,000 people that come to your website, just as general numbers.
Yes.
So now what we go is say, okay, what do we need to do for content marketing? If I became number one for this high intent keyword, right? When we say high intent, that's not just somebody, let me give you an example. Like if I just go look up attorney online, then I'm just looking for an attorney, but there's 50, 100, 200, 500 different types of attorneys. There's BK attorneys, there's business attorneys, there's whatever this is, right? Acquisition and mergers attorneys. There's a lot of different things. So if somebody's looking for a BK attorney in Sacramento, California, that's a high intent search because they're looking for a very specific thing. And if there's only 100 searches that month for that term, but if we can become number one for that, then that should be able to bear some fruit each month, right? So then we look at that and say, okay, once again, assuming you're driving the right type of traffic, how are we going to be able to get in front of those individuals? If it's a PPC thing, great, we can do that. We can get something up here in the next week. We can maybe start generating some revenue. PPC's easier in the sense that it's like, hey, I'm putting in $1 and I'm making $2, or I'm putting in $2 and I'm making $1, right? Because it's very almost cut or dry, but you have to do different campaigns called A/B testing to find out which one is moving the needle, right? The idea is you do 5 campaigns. You find out this one over here, your last campaign you did is, you put in $1, you make 2, then what do? You put 10 grand into that one and you're making 20 grand. Really at the end of the day, you should put $1 million into that, right? And then you make 2 million. But the point being is you have to find that working funnel. With content marketing, the idea of this is the way they'll tell you how content marketing has helped me. So in my organization, I started writing on my blog about 8 years ago. And what I wanted to do was start talking about my successes and my failures in regards to my business and how it's helping my clients. And at that time, a lot of people said, why are you doing this? Like, why are you going and telling the world about what your successes are? Like, you're giving everybody, like, somebody can just read your blog article and do it. And I said, exactly. And they said, but why are you doing that? Like, you're kind of telling people some of the secret sauce. And I go, well, if somebody comes to my website and they continuously go to my website for great information, there's going to be a point where they transition and they go, you know what? All this stuff is awesome, and Shane's giving me the keys to the castle, but I don't have the time to put this all together.
Yes.
Right? And who would I go to? Let me think. I've been reading his blog. Like, oh, Shane Parker. Hey, right? There's that guy Shane that I've been, right? Yeah. He's giving us the information, and then we talk about it and say, hey, does it make sense to have somebody like myself I've got a 35-person team, so we have writers and all that fun stuff in regards to content. And for me, and I don't know if I'm bragging about this or not, but all of my leads are inbound. So what I mean by that, we have a little bit of an outbound team now, but all of my leads, I was my only salesperson for a long time because we would get all inbound leads because of the content that I was producing. And it takes a little while. I was able to get to number one on Google for hundreds of keywords. I mean, if you look like digital marketing consultant, influencer marketing agency, there's a number of keywords that have some really high search volume. In fact, even if you looked up right now, you look up Google tools, I am higher than Google on Google for Google tools. So, I mean, do the math on that. I don't know how long that's going to last anymore, right? I mean, I probably shouldn't have told you that, because there's somebody from Google that's going to go,
Yes.
all right, we got to get the red light.
Let's go get this
Yeah,
guy.
exactly. You think you're funny, huh? Over here
Yeah.
bragging on podcasts, and then I'll be number 10 million after this interview, but which is okay. I'll take that responsibility. But that's what I'm saying is that we know how to optimize certain types of content. But really what it comes down to is this isn't something that just happened overnight. I mean, just because you write a great piece of content doesn't mean you're going to be number one overnight. There's a lot of variables to it. It's how long your website's been up, what your competition looks like, what is the niche, where you're going after, what keywords you're going after. But it's something that you can start chipping away like we've done for the last 8 years. In the last 2 years is we really started to optimize my site. And now because I'm number one for a lot of these keywords, I get as many leads as I want. I get tons of leads on a daily basis. And now my big system that we put in place is filtering through those leads and finding the right person, right? The right company to work with, because there's certain variables, there's qualifying questions that we ask to make sure it's a good fit. Because I don't want to, when I was 20, I would take on any deal, right? I would take on any project. I thought I could do this. Not a problem. I could work 18 hours. Like, who needs to eat? Like, I could just keep going. And now I'm going to say wiser. I'm going to use that word. My wife might not agree with that, but I will tell you, I feel like I'm a little wiser over the years. And now I'm very specific on projects and understand what is that perfect client for us. And what's going to be very realistic too, expectation is going to be a big deal when it comes to doing anything in regards to marketing or hiring a marketing company. But expectations is the big thing of saying, hey, what do you expect out of this? Like, hey, with this content marketing thing we're going to do, hey, it's going to cost X amount a month, and we're going to do a 6-month or a year program. When do you expect to see results? And they go, well, we'd like to see results in 2 weeks. And I go, well, that's not going to happen. Like, I would love for that to happen as well. But let's be realistic about this. What we're looking at, this is going to be at least a 6-month initiative. The reason why that is because you have these competitors. They're number one for these keywords. They've been doing this for 5 years. You just started today. There's some variables. We can start chipping away at the big players, and then there'll be a certain point where we can transition and we start becoming number one for that. But it's not an overnight thing.
Yes. And I think that I've heard in the past as well, some organizations that have been a little bit tentative on getting what they see as being a sort of a path that they almost can't step off, which is we'll start generating content and this is going to increase and increase, and we're not sure if we'll be able to maintain that. So should we start?
The thing is go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that a fear that you've come across?
No, the thing is you always have to start. Because
Yes.
The thing is if you're the person on the sideline that says, man, maybe I should start this, the only way to fail is just to not start it. I mean, it really
Yes,
is. I mean,
that's
it's like
true.
anything else.
Anything like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you got to jump in. You can't be worried about, are we going to be able to produce content at that level? Like, you have to assume that if you're producing great content and you're getting leads from it, then you can't produce content fast enough. There's a number of different ways you can do that. I mean, that's where my company specializes in. It's like, hey, we don't want to hire a writer, and we don't want to hire an editor, and we don't want to hire a graphic designer, and then how do we do the distribution of it? I mean, that's one of my companies. That's what we do, right? It's like, let us help you produce phenomenal content. Let's not make it a nightmare. Let's go over the keywords. We'll go over some titles. You guys approve them. We'll go write the content. We'll put it up on your blog. We'll also get you brand mentions on other websites. Like, the idea is just to drive the right type of traffic, and it's not easy to do. And really, at the end of the day, if you're a business owner and you're profitable, you don't want to try to go figure it out. You probably want to have enough knowledge to at least be dangerous, right? To understand who you're hiring and how they're going about things. But really, you want to outsource that. I mean, that's not something. I mean, you can take it on internally, and if you want to do that, and you understand that it just takes a little while. If you don't have a huge budget, but you want to learn, then absolutely hire internally and find some writers. It doesn't have to be full-time writers. It can be somebody you find on, get a freelancer.com, or there's Text Broker. There's all kinds of these sites where you can go find somebody that will write for your blog, and you just go through this process. And if you want to do it internally, that's awesome. If you have the budget and say, hey, I don't want to take 6 months to figure this out, I really want to go hire somebody. Once again, there's a guy, his name's Shane Barker. You can look him up online. He potentially might know, and you can even look at my blog, and there's enough information there to even be dangerous, to even set up your own system for doing content marketing and being successful at it.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because as software technology has attracted more money, there are what I'd say startup organizations that are getting investment at quite an early age, and they've got a budget, they've got money to spend. And I think that they need to make that the right choice to start partnering with an organization like yourself is that really can take them forward, because there's a lot of people offering marketing services out there and a lot of sort of generalists, and I've had quite a few complaints. How does an organization spot the good guys from the bad guys? They want to know, if they want to be able to spot somebody who could really help them with content marketing, how they can
Yeah,
spot the good guys if that's not an area where it's sort of a key part of their expertise. They're great at writing software, they're good at the tech, but marketing isn't that area. What are the key
yeah.
things they need to look out for?
The number one thing I would look for is just, I mean, show me the money, right? You go in, you just ask the people and say, show me the proof. If you're great at content marketing, let me see the kind of the kind of content you're producing, and I want to see how well it's doing on Google. Because at the end of the day, it really comes down to producing great content, the distribution of that content, and driving the traffic, and then converting that traffic. So really, at the end of the day, if you're going to hire a content marketing company and you say they should have some kind of an SEO strategy, right? Because the idea is you want to produce content with purpose.
Mm,
Right. When we first started my blog, I was just producing content to produce content because I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought, well, I'm going to write about this. And now I write the content I write today has a purpose. So I'm looking at keywords. I'm looking at pulling in a certain type of audience. There's a number of things that we do. It has to be done with purpose. So if you're interviewing a company, whether it's mine or anybody else's, what you want to find out is like, how do you guys produce your content? Like, what is the reasoning for producing the content? How do you guys go about producing that content? And go through their process and say, okay, how does that work for you guys? And then show me, well, okay, we do a lot of stuff with keywords. Okay, well, great. Can you go ahead and show me a report, an SEO report of where you guys are at with the keywords? Like for me, I'm in the marketing space. So I'm going against the biggest players in the world, right? I mean, I go up against everybody that wants the same keywords. I'm going against marketers, right? So if you're a
mm,
local restaurant, I'm not saying it's easier, right? Because most restaurants don't know how to market. So if you really know how to market your restaurant, you're going to probably be able in the top. I'm going against the top marketers in the world. So we're always vying for the number one spots. Like I was just at a conference. I was number one for a few keywords that one of the speakers there actually used to be number one, and I knocked him off. And I went up and said, hey, man, I'm not going to say his name because people will know who he is. I was like, hey, man, it was nice seeing you. We're kind of talking. I was like, yeah, you kind of lost some position on some of your keywords. And he goes, you're a bastard. That's what he told me. And we started laughing, right? Because it's this constant battle of like, he's like, all right, I'm going to get my team on it. I was like, well, you don't really have to do that because my team's already on it. It's like your team's already in second place. So we go, there's this banter that goes back and forth, but you have to realize like I have the best marketers in the world that are going after my keywords, right? And you
yeah,
notice I call them my keywords, not their keywords, they're my keywords. So I'm
yes.
a hoarder when it comes to the keyword thing. But the idea of it is you have to figure out what your purpose is, right? So you're saying, hey, Shane, in my industry, my software company, these are my high intent keywords, right? This is the ones like, let's say you have a software that, helps you monetize on Instagram or something. And what you should be going after is how do I make money on Instagram, right? Because you're looking at the idea of it is who is the person that would be perfect for your software. Now you build content around answering that question, right? Because that's what you have to do. You have to build this thing backwards. You have to go, okay, who is my perfect client? Who's for my software? What's the perfect avatar? It is XYZ person looking to do this, and this is what they need. Okay, great. Then we build that out. Now we start looking at content. Or what you do is you go, okay, I need to build content around the biggest questions in the industry that people will come to me with. And they go, hey, Shane, the biggest problem, and in theory, what the solution, the software, builds some kind of solution for what this problem is. Well, you should go and address those questions in a blog post.
Mm,
Like, how am I able to do blah, 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 blah. And those are obviously people looking for some kind of solution. And guess what? By the end of the blog post, guess who the solution is? Your software. Like, let's set up a free demo. Like, you have this problem. We have the solution through our software. Well, let's set up a free demo. So your audience, your potential clients are always talking about their pain points. And really, your software should be the answer to those pain points. And so when you're answering those through blog posts, once again, everybody reads your blog and they're reading this and they keep reading this stuff. They go, God, this guy really knows what's going on. Guess what's going to happen? Eventually, if it makes sense and you're continuously giving great information, they're going to come to you and say, hey, you know what? I've been looking to make money on Instagram. I see you have this way to be able to grow your followers or whatever, be able to monetize my profile. And I've read some great articles from you. Now I'm ready to engage you guys. Like, what exactly does this mean? Like, what does the software cost? And you go through this whole cycle with them. But it's only because you were giving them great information in the beginning, right? The idea of it is you're there as a solution for them. You don't always have to shove it down their throat. But if you give great information, you give solutions, there's going to be a point where there's going to be that turning point where they go, you know what? I think this is a time where I need to talk to Shane because he seems to know what he's talking about because he's writing all this great content around something that I need to improve upon.
And they've got to know you as well.
That's
There's that
exactly it too.
dialogue. Yes.
That's exactly it. And you really can't. That's one of the reasons, it's one of the reasons why you have your podcast. That's the reason why I have my podcast is
Yeah.
people can listen to this as well. And then they get to understand. I mean, let me tell you something. So the way that I got my job at UCLA was not because I applied for the position. It was because they read my content.
Yes.
That's a true story. So
Yes.
what happened was they read my stuff online, no different than you read my article and said, hey, Shane, we got this article about content marketing.
Yep.
You would have, if I didn't write that article, guess what? I potentially wouldn't have been on this podcast. That's due to content that I'm producing, right?
Yes.
It's the same thing with UCLA. They came to me and said, we're looking for a practitioner, somebody that's in the space for doing influencer marketing. It's a new area of marketing. We need somebody that's really in the space, not somebody that's just read a book on it. And we want to interview you. And of course, I thought it was like, somebody like one of my friends spamming me that saying they were from UCLA. I thought it was a spam message, but it really was UCLA. And next, I'm working at UCLA. So that's because of content. Like the more information you put out there, more good information you put out there. That's how I get the keynote speeches. That's how I got the job at UCLA. That's how, I write for 120 different websites. I have this exposure because of the content I produce. I could be the most intelligent guy in the room, but if nobody's met me, and if I don't have content being produced, we will have no idea how intelligent you are. We will have no idea that you should be the person that I am hiring, right? And so that's the thing. The issue with content marketing, I'll be honest, is that it's not easy to do, and it's time-consuming, and it costs money and all this other stuff, and it doesn't produce overnight. But once it does start producing, like I said, mine right now, I'm producing at an extremely high level. I'll tell you, my website right now we just started monetizing my website probably about 2 months ago. I'm making about $8,000. I'll be making $25,000 a month by monetizing my website through content marketing. That's hands off. People, either sponsored posts or people, I'm the 15 best AI chatbots, and people can go on and get number one in that position, and I drive the right type of traffic through them. So I'm telling you that's because of content marketing. Now, that didn't happen 8 years ago when I started my blog, because like anything else, it takes time, right? You can't expect to, if you go into content marketing and say, hey, I want to do a 3-month campaign, I don't even do 3-month campaigns for anybody. You know why? Because you're not going to see results.
Yes.
You just won't. Right. So the idea of this, and that scares people because they're like, why are you doing this for a year or 6 months? Well, it's because I know what it's going to take to be successful. And you're not going to get abs by doing 10 crunches today. Like you just won't. Like, right. I mean, when it comes to fitness, like you're going to have to really work. You're going to have to probably check your diet a little bit. You're going to have to probably quit drinking as much beer and maybe not have cupcakes on the weekend. Like, right. There's some things we got to do to be able to make this successful. In content marketing, if you find the right company, obviously it can be phenomenal, but just make sure that you understand what that journey is going to entail, because it's not an overnight thing. But once it starts producing, once you get number one for those keywords, I mean, the sky's the limit. At that point, that's the pinnacle. Once you start driving leads from those keywords and then you optimize those posts, I mean, some good stuff happens.
What would you say to, because you mentioned about Instagram, what would you say to perhaps some of the B2B software tech companies that are saying, Instagram isn't for us, that's more personal, or Facebook, for instance, Facebook isn't for us, we prefer to go on to something that's regarded as more of a business platform like LinkedIn. What would you say to them on that?
I mean, the thing is, whether it's B2C or B2B, it really comes down to the pain points of your clients.
Yeah.
Right. It comes down to like answering those questions. And you know what those questions are. You talk to your customer service rep, or you can talk to whenever you're in there selling. They're going to tell you what their pain points are. If you're asking the right questions, they're going to say, oh, my issue with this is this, and this, or the problems I'm having with this is this, right? Or, we tried this and this didn't work and it's really frustrating, but I've seen my competitors doing this. How can I do more of that? Like really at the end of the day, you have to think about your customer, and your customer, is on Twitter complaining, or maybe not your customer, but somebody's customer. There's a lot of information out there, right? There's a fire hose of information. And if you're talking with these individuals and they should be giving that information, there'll be these questions that happen over and over and over. You should develop content around that, whether that's a blog post, whether that's a video, whether that's whatever that is, because now what you're doing is you become the solution for everybody that have this pressing question that they don't have an answer to. And then naturally they'll start to see your software and they'll say, hey, wait a second, maybe this is the solution that I'm looking for this certain pain point that I have. So produce content with intent, with a purpose. Don't just produce content to produce content. Like I have people, they'll say, hey, I'm doing, blog posts and it's 600 words and it's really great. I'm like, oh, okay, that's awesome. And like, what are you doing it for? I'm not really sure. We're doing it because I read an article from you and it says to produce content. And I say, okay, Well, we have to have a little more intent than that, right? So we have to figure out what is the goal of the content? Like, what is your, obviously, is it sales? Is it eyeballs? Is it like, what is it? Like, what are you looking for? And then once you have that in mind, now we build out content around that. We put some content up, give it 3 to 6 months, see what is producing well. What I mean by that is where it's at it's on page 1, page 2. And then we look at that content and then repurpose that content, start doing, distribution of the content, driving traffic. And then you get a nice working funnel where you're, on page 1 for a certain great high intent keyword. And then you start driving some great leads through that. And then now you have a working funnel that's producing money for you. And then you just have to kind of stay number 1 or in that first page for that position. Now we go after another keyword that we produced some content 3 months ago with, and now we're starting to optimize that and starting to get that better and get backlinks to it and start, generating these funnels of cash. But once again, it takes a little bit of time.
You've been around doing this for a long time. What are the major changes that you've seen over the years? Because that is an issue that I think many guys in the software tech struggle to contend with sometimes, is they get their head around where the best marketing strategy is, but then things change, and things can change very, very quickly. A few algorithm changes on perhaps one of their favorite channels, and what worked yesterday may not work today. What's that general trend that you've seen historically, and where do you think things are heading in the future?
Yeah, so I do think some things have changed. The things that haven't changed is that if you produce great content for Google, over time you will rank well. But it's a long-term game, right? So the idea of it is most people don't produce great content, especially at scale or over a long period of time. So most people jump out of it because it's not easy, right? I mean, to be able to understand the game, understand SEO and how to produce content and where to put the keywords and the keyword density and all this other fun stuff that's mind-numbing to anybody that develops software, unless you're developing SEO software. The idea of this is that things do change, algorithms change, but I can tell you every time there's an algorithm change, I go and I crack a beer and I'm having nothing but a party that night because I know it's going to knock down all of the people that are trying to take over my keywords that aren't doing it the right way, right? So if it comes down to producing content the right way, and it's Google's always said for the longest time, you produce great content, we will favor you for that. And then these algorithm changes, if you're trying to do funny stuff or you're getting backlinks from, spammy websites, or you're trying to game the system, right? It's
you're trying to cheat. If you're trying to cheat the system, then eventually it will come and kick you back.
It'll come back and bite you. It'll come back like anything, So what you have to do is say, hey, listen, I'm in for the long haul. I understand what this is going to take. And you start to see, understand like how these little small wins that you're getting from this content you're producing. That's another thing too, is you can produce content with the intent of maybe helping your sales team. Like a sales team says, hey, our biggest issues are, hey, they're always comparing us to the XYZ software. Yes. And we, how do we go about doing that? Well, great. Now we need to produce a content why XYZ software is better than XYZ software. And we'll do a video about it. And now you guys can use that as a sales tool.
Yes.
Right. So not only can it index well, but now we can use it for a second purpose as the sales guys to come in and say, hey, I can tell you why we're better than XYZ software, but why don't you watch this video from the owner and or the co-founder, and he'll talk about why this software is better and the reason why we developed it different than this software. Hey, it's cost. Hey, it's this. It's whatever that is. And then those searches also come up. I've just started writing about, 15, different softwares that are better than HubSpot. Or, and then people go, wait, HubSpot's too expensive for me, but here goes 15 better options. Great, let me take a look at those options. So once again, it also comes down to you can produce content, for the intent of the audience, but also for keywords. So when you do keyword research, I'll pull some keywords and I go, wow, that's a great article that I can produce something around. There's not a lot of, it's called the KD score or a competition. So there's not a lot of competition for it. And it's what we call long tail keywords. So it's like, instead of going after the example I used earlier was attorney, that's a very popular one. Yes. You can go DUI attorney Sacramento. So there's going to be less people going for that search, but it's a higher intent. So you can go after those certain keywords that there's not quite as much competition and start getting some small wins. And then when your site gets up in the domain authority and starts getting more popular and Google starts loving you and giving you praise, great. Then we can start going after these harder keywords and start becoming number one for those. And then you're just driving an engine at that point.
What's the biggest mistake that you see companies make?
Well, the first one is not getting started, right? I mean, because people, it's always it's like anything. I also do real estate. I flip properties, and it's always, if I would have bought that house 10 years ago. If I would have done content marketing 10 years ago, it'd been so different. And you know what the thing is somebody else is going to say that in 10 years. Like if you
Yeah.
start today, you will be happy. Like the class I teach at UCLA, I actually have on my blog, I have the original blog post that I wrote, and it is absolutely atrocious. Like, I mean, it looks like, actually, if I had a 3-year-old son, which I don't, I'm pretty sure he would be able to write a better article than I wrote at that time. I mean, it's to show my students, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And they're thinking, half of them are thinking, "How did he get into UCLA to teach?" Right? And the other half, I'm telling them, I said, "You know, that's a terrible article, but the reason I'm showing that to you is because I started,
Yes.
right? And if I didn't start, if I didn't, you know, you want to do a YouTube video, and you're like, I don't like the way I look, I don't like this, blah, 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 blah. There's always something. Then every YouTube person that ever made a YouTube video, their first video sucked, guaranteed. 100% of them, like not maybe 99, maybe there's one person that just was a natural and we all hate that person, but the other 99, like you're going to suck, like, but you have to get started. So that's the thing is that people, the biggest mistake is like, well, I just don't know. And I'm not really sure. Like people write about it all day long. Like there's enough information. Like when I started doing this, whatever, 25 years ago, there was nothing on the internet to go. There was no Udemy. There was no classes. There was no blogs. There was some stuff, but it was very limited. Like, now the world's your oyster. I can literally jump on Udemy and find out how to do PPC in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now, you're not going to be perfect at it, but you can at least have somebody else has taken their knowledge of 10 years and given you a 2-hour course and you pay $49 for that. Like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what's amazing about this. Like with content marketing, like anything, I don't care if it's SEO, any of this stuff, you just have to start and you can go get a base, you know, take a course, get some general information, understand some of the vernacular, some of the verbiage that people use. And then you can go and go and, you know, ask the right questions, and you can go ask somebody and it's a cool part. You can go find a blog on the 10 questions you should ask an agency before you hire them. Like it's out there. Like everything is out there for the taking. You can go in and ask these information, get this information, and then you can go and find out the certain people. You interview them, and now you have enough information to be dangerous because you asked the right qualifying questions to bring on the right type of agency to start writing this type of content for you. And so it doesn't take a lot. The thing which you have to be careful of is drinking through the fire hose. There's enough information to make you go numb every single day and have you not like work on your own business, right? You have to say, hey, I'm going to work on this for 1 hour. I'm going to do content marketing in 1 month. I'm going to spend 1 hour a day. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to find the Shane Barkers of the world that will do a free half an hour consultation. I'm going to ask my questions. I'm going to look for qualifying questions. I'm going to make sure I'm do an interview with the individual or the agency. Make sure you get a good vibe from them, you know, but make sure emails are one thing to talk to somebody to really understand how well how good they're at in regards to what they do. Have the conversation and then decide to put some budget behind it. Make sure you understand what it's going to take, you know, and then the other agency should ask you qualifying questions for expectation to make sure you're on the same page. The goals of the agency, how quickly, you know, expect to see results, that kind of fun stuff. What would be a home run, right? What are we looking at in regards to KPIs and goals? Set that in place. And then get the party started.
So what's the future for Shane Barker? Are there any trends coming along that you hope to be sort of at the forefront of that, or is it a case of content marketing is going to continue pretty well as it is? You just need to improve the quality. Is there any technology change? Because obviously there's a lot of people that we speak to through this podcast and we speak to through our business that are very technology focused. I mean, AI and data analytics and a lot of the sort of the newer technologies that are coming along. Is there anything that you think is really going to disrupt marketing and change it? Or is content marketing still going to be pretty well about producing, you know, as you've said, produce content with intent, and that's going to be right at the core of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be AI and there's machine learning and there's always the new shiny thing.
Yes.
And those things will, you know, with AI and it will, you know, make it so you can produce better content because you can find things faster. I mean, software is always going to improve things, right? It's always going to make things more efficient, but it's not going to replace the actual writing of content, right? I mean, you can spin articles, you can do this. They're never going to be as good as somebody that actually writes the article. So software is going to make it so you can, you know, find keywords faster. You can do titles faster. You can go put a title into some software and find out, hey, is it going to be 80% of the people will understand it? How many people are going to engage with it? I mean, that's always going to be out there, right? Which is awesome. But the writing of quality content and coming out there and being the thought leader takes time. But once you're in that position, you're in that position, right? I mean, people aren't going to be able to take that away from you. A software company that comes out with some AI software is not going to be able to push me out of my thought leadership position, right? It just won't happen, right? I'm in the position I'm in because of the amount of content I've produced and because I've been doing this for a long time. So that will never take away. Software and all that stuff is always going to make things more efficient. It's always going to make things better. And there's always going to be some cooler stuff to be able to, once again, I mean, there's some software we just got to interlink our articles better. So it does an algorithm and that's awesome. Like that kind of stuff it makes it easier because before we do eyeball tests and all this other stuff, software makes it more efficient. But I wouldn't be scared of the future. I mean, the thing is, you always, I don't want to do a video because I got to have the top quality, video, the camera. I have to do this, I have to do that. Quit thinking that way. Just get started. Like literally everything. You can use your iPhone to do a video. Like to write content, you can literally, there's this thing called a Microsoft Word doc. You might have heard of it. You can literally start typing on this thing called a keyboard, which is brand new. Like you can just start typing away on this thing, get some ideas together and say, hey, and even if you're not a great writer, like I'm not a great writer. Like I've been writing for a long time, but I am not a phenomenal writer. I know that this is going to shock people, but I have writers that are phenomenal, right? Yes. Because I hired them, right? So we have these projects that I put together. I'll put together general idea. I have a guy that does the keyword, or somebody from my team, keyword research. Somebody else puts a title together. We'll put together a brief. The client loves the brief. Then we produce the content. Like over time, you can put these systems in place. These are all because these are people that I looked at what I want to do and what I don't want to do. And I produced a team. I was like, I hated writing blog posts. So I said, okay, how can I find a team that will produce blog posts for me? Well, now I do a blog post today, right? And I say we, I'm saying my team, right? I'm not writing them every single day anymore. No. But you start somewhere and you kind of get that ball rolling, you get things rolling, and now you're at a point where like, okay, great, now the content's going, now I can focus on SEO or I can focus on PPC or influencer marketing. I can focus on another avenue. You just got to put some effort into it and quit trying to do like, the 10 different things. You read an article, you're like, these are 10 things you need to do. Focus on one or two things. Like really, really put your time and effort into that because you can always, the shiny penny's always there. You can always, look at the new cool thing to do. Figure out what you want to do. If you don't like being on video, guess what? Don't do video marketing. I know that's shocking, but if you read an article that says do video marketing, and you're like, oh God, but I hate being on video, quit reading the article. Yeah. That's not you. Produce content that you want to produce. For me, it was writing, not because I'm a great writer, but because I felt like that's where I would drive traffic, get people there. And now where am I at today? I've got a blog that's phenomenal, that's producing revenue for me, passive revenue for me. And it's also bringing in my consulting. It brings in my speaking. And to tell you, you asked me kind of what is the future of Shane Barker is real estate. I've been heavy investing in real estate. And then also I've been doing education. So I have a site, howtobeaninfluencer.com, where we help influencers on how to do personal branding. And then I also do workshops for brands on the influencer side of things, even on the content side of things, on how to produce better content, how to produce content, I guess. And then also how to work with brands and influencers as well.
Superb. Well, you've done a great job today, Shane. I've enjoyed the conversation with you. If somebody wants to reach out to you, they can reach you at shanebarker.com, ShaneBarker.com, and your email address as well, which is shane@shanebarker.com. So if anyone has been interested in, and I'm sure you will be, of some of the points that Shane's brought up today, he's got some great articles. Go and have a look at what he's doing. And thank you very much. You put great energy into it today, and it's been a great podcast. Thank you very much for that, Shane. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark.
It's been a pleasure.